Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
Alyeska Pipeline Service Company, fueling philanthropic programs and dedicated to creating educational and professional opportunities for Alaska Native people.
When shopping for your family's meals, do you know where you can find Alaska-grown products? Everywhere. They're available at your local grocery stores and farmers markets across the state. Alaska-grown products are fresher and more nutritious, and buying local helps grow our economy. So just look for the Alaska-grown label when you shop, or ask your grocer where the Alaska-grown products are. Remember, Alaska-grown. It's closer, fresher, better.
And it's all Alaska-grown.
The National Weather Service.
Hello again, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us for this Saturday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm Dave Percy. On satellite imagery, system, band of clouds, rain, showers here pushing across the southeast coast. Heaviest amounts occurring in the north, and showers back along the North Gulf Coast, getting into more rain as this system down here spreads moisture right back up into the area here along the coast. And clouds back to the west here, clearing out north of the mountains there across the central interior areas up into the Yukon Flats and back over the northwest, seeing some sunshine there. Also breaking out over the St. Lawrence Island area, and strong northerly winds coming down from the Pribilofs, sweeping across eastern Aleutians this afternoon. And this band right through here brought the heavier showers up across south central Alaska and the Kenai Peninsula into Prince William Sound, but amounts not as heavy here for the North Gulf Coast and in the Sound there as they were yesterday. And also lighter rainfall amounts today up over the Copper River Basin area with, again, very scattered, isolated showers along this cloud mass there up over the northwest interior. And out to the west, I've got some more moisture sneaking into the far western Aleutians, but the main rain area is still back to the west, associated with that warm front way out there toward the Komodorskis. Low pressure west-southwest or southwest of Kodiak Island there, and areas of showers and rain in across the southwest interior here. Earlier today, that breaking out this afternoon, especially in the Kuskokwim Valley areas. And back out to the west, temperatures rising into the 70s in some locations there, mid to upper 70s to near 80 up over the eastern interior at mid-afternoon today. And clear skies, as I mentioned, up along the northwest areas there, that offshore flow. And dense fog earlier today at Kaktovik down to a quarter-mile visibility with IFR mostly due to the ceilings being below 1,000 feet there all the way out to about the Barrow area. And rainfall amounts with that system moving into the southeast coast area there range from a quarter to some cases over half an inch here over the central and northern part of the area there, with lighter amounts, more showery conditions down to the south. And again, along the North Gulf Coast there this afternoon, some moderate rain and showers going on like Seward on up into Portage Glacier, maybe Whittier, and across south central Alaska. Rain today, Kodiak Island, and those gusty winds, 30 to 50 miles an hour here, blowing across the eastern Aleutians this afternoon with 20 to 40 mile an hour winds there for the Pribilof areas, and then diminishing as you go north there. Anywhere from a quarter to a third of an inch of rain fell from Dutch Harbor on Alaska up along the western Alaska Peninsula, and then higher pressure out to the west for lighter winds and no precipitation at all. For tonight, that low drifts to the east here to just about near Sitkinak in that area, so periods of rain and fog continue there for Kodiak Island, and several more troughs working their way mainly to the north. The first one here pushes off to the east, kind of this one, the remnants of the of another one that'll come in tonight and then tomorrow morning. So breaking out of the showers there, but lingering up over the northern areas. Periods of rain and showers up along the North Gulf Coast once again. And some of that spilling westward, kind of showery for the Cook Inlet area. Mostly tonight, scattered showers, mostly cloudy skies up over the interior with more clearing and drier conditions back to the northwest. And again, the low clouds and fog right along the Arctic coast there, especially on the east side. Winds continue to blow here. Gales this evening for the south side of the eastern Aleutians there, with stronger winds starting to develop over the Alaska Peninsula. So could see some gusts 45 miles an hour in some of the windier areas there for the peninsula, the western peninsula, much lighter over Bristol Bay. And out to the west, that next system bringing quite an area of fog, low clouds, drizzle, light rain, that sort of thing. Definitely IFR, possibly low IFR sliding into the western Aleutians. And then for tomorrow, that system will spread that type weather into the central Aleutians there as that thing drops off to the southeast. Not much going on out over the Bering Sea with maybe a narrow band of gustier wind, small craft advisories there from the Bering Strait southward along the southwest coast here, and continuing along the Alaska Peninsula, eastern Aleutian, small craft advisories in effect through tomorrow, but winds diminishing here. You can see the gradient is becoming a little more less steep here across that area. No wind for Kodiak Island, the southwest interior, no winds at all over the interior. You've got a trough right through here. So look for a little more extensive area of some scattered thunderstorm activity from the Kilberg Mountains right up to the northeast there to the, well, into northwest Canada. And again, temperatures in the sunnier locations rising into the 70s once again, and drier and sunshine there for the north slope, northwest interior, back down along the Yukon Kuskokwim Delta coastline, and mostly dry over the southern panhandle, still wet up to the north, and areas of moderate rainfall still possible there, Yakutat over to possibly Cordova. And then the outlook for Monday, a lot drier here over south central Alaska, still holding on to some showers for Prince William Sound, but look for partly sunny skies in areas there. Afternoon showers of the scattered or isolated variety from the Susitna Valley down across the Kenai Peninsula. Risk of an afternoon thunderstorm along the western Alaska Range, and more of a chance along this trough axis there from the southwest interior on up to the northeast. But again, areas of sunshine up over the central Tanana Valley, 40-mile country, possibly the Yukon Flats, so temperatures back probably into the 70s in those areas, and dry conditions back to the northwest as well, with partly to mostly sunny skies. Another trough approaching the western Arctic coast, probably won't bring an effect in until Monday night there, but the offshore wind flow will tend to clear it out and lift the ceilings, visibilities up along the eastern and central coastline. And that system out over the central Aleutians tomorrow drops off to the southeast here, just about off the map, and then kind of hangs around there, and then late Monday night and Tuesday begins to pull its way back northward. So late Tuesday into Wednesday, that could bring some more rainfall into the eastern Aleutians, Alaska Peninsula areas. Otherwise, temperatures across the southeast coast at mid-afternoon, up mid-50s to lower 60s, 61 there at Klawock, 57 Sitka, with a 58-degree reading at Skagway, 61 in Yakutat, mid to upper 50s Prince William Sound, 65 in Gultana, and 60s, in some cases getting up towards 70 here for the Susitna Valley and portions of Cook Inlet with Kenai at 67, Homer 63. Talkeetna, mid-afternoon 68, 56 down at Kodiak, and 75 there at Fairbanks, 72 at Delta, Northway at 70 degrees, with 72 also over at Tanana, and McGrath pushing up to 72 as well. Fort Yukon had 70, but Chakitzik there just to the southeast, I believe, they're up around 80 degrees this afternoon, 65 in Bettles, 50 degrees up at Umiat Airfield there in the North Slope, otherwise in the 40s for the Arctic coast, and 60s with the sunshine, Kotzebue up to 68. Same thing at Kelly, Kivalina 64, 70 degrees at Koyuk, 67 in Nome, and 60s to near 70 here over the southwest interior. That's St. Mary's had 70 this afternoon, with 65 at Amonik, 54 at Savunga, and out over the Bering Sea, mid-50s for the Pribilofs, and lower to mid-50s here for the Aleutians. and upper 50s for the Alaska Peninsula. For the lows tonight here, green with some yellow, that's mid 50s there, all the way down to the southwest coast, lower to mid 50s for the peninsula, near 50 for the Aleutians, about the same over the southeast coast there, mid 50s, 30s north slope and Arctic coast. And then for the highs tomorrow, again, 60s into the lower 70s there with the warmest conditions, well, right through the central interior and off to the east, especially up toward the Yukon Flats. And again, 60s to maybe near 70 here in the Susitna Valley, with 50s to lower 60s for the southeast coast, and some upper 50s and lower 60s for the Alaska Peninsula, with king salmon forecast to be 67. Flying weather tomorrow afternoon, IFR, Northern Panhandle, marginal VFR, looks like they're carrying it all the way down to Dixon Entrance for the afternoon tomorrow. North Gulf Coast, IFR right up along the coastline there, into Prince William Sound, especially western Prince William Sound there, but VFR for Cook Inlet, maybe some lingering marginal VFR here for the western mountain areas. IFR along the Arctic coast at times, through the Bering Strait, north side of St. Lawrence Island, and down toward St. Michael, Amonic, maybe Hooper Bay. Lots of IFR out over the western Bering Sea with better conditions, VFR here off the southwest coast. And for passes, Anatuvik looks good on both approaches tomorrow, as does Adigan. Lake Clark and Merrill, occasional VFR at times throughout the day tomorrow, which means VFR at other times. And that same forecast also holds for Rainy. Windy VFR. Isabel occasionally marginal, but Mentesta looks good. And Tanita will be open, hopefully. Well, it should be VFR. Chance of it going marginal at times, but not much of one. Portage, occasional IFR. Chilkoot and White, IFR. Freezing levels about 8,000 feet across the whole area here, except southern Panhandle up to about 10,000 feet, and 10 to 12,000 feet out over the west central Aleutians. Otherwise, not much of a thermal gradient across the state at all. And for the icing tomorrow, still a lot of moisture coming northward here, so of the rime variety, possibly mixed into the Panhandle along the North Gulf Coast, across south central Alaska, all above about 8,000 feet, and then some mixed icing there from the northeast interior down to Kuskokwim Bay and the Kilbrook Mountains due to the convection there, higher moisture layer. So convection would imply maybe some mixed icing. Upper level wind flow chart, jet stream here, upper low there, pulling east of Kodiak Island. Southwest flow 90 knots into the Panhandle, and kind of just a big broad trough northwesterlies 100 knots out over the western Aleutians, and then this trough beginning to swing eastward, so we've got southwesterlies at about 40 across the north slope to the eastern Arctic coast. And then for 9,000 feet, pretty good southerlies here, 30 to 35 knots, eastern Gulf of Alaska near the Panhandle. Much lighter over the interior, more variable, 5 to 10 knots. Could see some southeasterlies at 20 there, western Prince William Sound. Still this northwest flow, but not quite as strong, down to 20, 25 knots there. The stronger wind max now south of the Alaska Peninsula tomorrow afternoon, 20 to 25 out to the west, and just 10 to 20 over the Bering Sea. That also holds at 3,000 feet. A little more squirrely out here over the western Aleutians and central areas as this low kind of drifts off to the southeast there. But 25 knots, St. Lawrence Island, right down across the Alaska Peninsula, and east-southeasterlies 15 to 25 for the North Gulf Coast, light and variable over the interior, and across the Panhandle, kind of a trough lifting northward here, but only looking at 20 knots there, otherwise 15 to 20 up north of White Pass. And from there, taking a look at the turbulence, light to isolated moderate chop, Sitka on up towards roughly Haines, Elfin Cove, Yakutat along the North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound. Could get some easterly winds there with higher pressure building along the coastline, so it could be some light to isolated moderate chop below 5,000 feet in those areas. And then also here from Cape Lisburne through the Strait, St. Lawrence Island, all the way down the Alaska Peninsula, eastern Aleutians. Could be moderate chop there, mechanical stuff there for the peninsula and occasionally eastern Aleutians, but all improving gradually throughout the day and into the afternoon. And after the break, I'll be back and look at the marine forecasts. The Valdez Flying started out probably back in the 80s. It became this mecca of short-field takeoff and landing, bush flying, you know, where everybody meets. All the cowboys show up. You know, everybody shows up with their horse, you know.
Okay, welcome everyone. We'll start the safety briefing for the SOL competition. If you have not done it somewhere else, do not do it here first. This is not the time to try the new technique.
This competition prepares pilots for landing off airport. Whenever you're looking for a place to land, you have to be absolutely certain about that spot. You have to be able to touch down at that spot or a little bit later and never before it. So being able to get down exactly where you want and stop as quickly as you can, one is really fun in competition, but two is excellent training for flying supercars.
There's a lot to it that separates some of these guys from just your normal flying around the United States types of pilot. I guess that's why they come and seek me out a little bit. I've been a flight instructor for about 20 years now. Like any kid, whatever his dad does, you probably don't want to do it, you know, but it's the only thing I ever knew. When you're hanging around a bunch of pilots, we have a lot of pride, you know, when we talk about, well, I've been flying this airplane for the last 5,000 hours, you know, and I've been in this airplane for 2,000 hours, and, you know, I learned to fly when I was 16.
I've been flying since I was about 2 weeks old.
I've been flying since the headset would fit over my little baby head.
I started flying with my father when I was 8 years old.
So I asked my dad one day, I'm like, hey, when was the first time I was in an airplane? And my dad looks at me and he says, son, you were conceived in an airplane.
This will be my 6th year at the Valdez Flying, and I've won first place in 4 of the 5 years. We have the T3 tail wheel suspension. You can find that at supercubsnorth.com. In the front here we have the leading edge slats. They help the air stay attached to the wing and help it fly at a high angle of attack. We have a 240 horsepower motor. It cruises around 85 miles an hour, but it climbs out at, better than anything I've ever flown in. Most of the guys that I compete with at Valdez at the STOL competition are seasoned bush pilots that have been around the block for a long, long time. They've seen way more than I'll ever see in my life. So they all give me a hard time about having won in the past. And I just hope that I don't run out of luck here. Because these guys, they are certainly really good, and I don't doubt that they'll come back and get me one day.
All right, you need to do it at 194 feet. You landed. 55 feet 8 inches. Let's give them a wave.
I've been flying in Valdez at a competition for about the last 10 years, and it's been great fun, but nothing has ever come close to the amount of pride and fun that I had today getting to compete with my daughter in this event.
I've been coming here with my dad since I was probably an infant, and this year he finally convinced me to compete too.
Laura J. Erb. Her first landing distance was 209 feet, so we'll see if she can beat her first landing distance. And yes, that will qualify. All right, Wes, proud dad. Now, let's see, her second landing was 162. Your best landing was, if I remember right, 152? That's close, but I would have to check the numbers. I think she might have beat me this year.
Getting in a Super Cub for the first time is like strapping on a set of wings and see everything from a bird's perspective, and then touch down and get out, and suddenly you're 100 miles from where you last were, or maybe even in a place that nobody's ever been before, and it's just an unreal experience. Flying up in Alaska is a lot different than flying the lower 48 because the weather changes so rapidly, the terrain is much more varied. Having the opportunity to be a pilot in Alaska has really defined who I am as a pilot and who I am as a person.
Welcome back. Pretty uniform wind speeds here, 25 knots for small craft advisories along the coast. Southerly here on the south coast, southeast up to the north. Lynn Canal south 25 knots, southeast 25 for Stevens Passage. And Clarence Strait, same thing, 25 knots out of the southeast with 5-foot seas here over the inside waters, 8 to 9 foot seas out along the coast. And for Monday, those winds come down more southerly here at about 20 knots. Seas running 9 to 10 feet, southwest 20 for the extreme south coast. And the winds here for Clarence Strait coming down to 15 knots, becoming a little more southerly there as the seas subside to 3 feet. Southeast at about 20 with 4-foot seas, Stevens Passage, a little more variable for Frederick Sound. And Lynn Canal, bring it down to 20 knots. Northern Lynn Canal there for south 20 knots. Seas running at about 4 feet. And Prince William Sound, we've got small craft advisories in the forecast there for tomorrow. East 25, seas 5-6 feet, give or take there on the heights. Northeast 20, actually starting out with small craft advisories here for Northern Cook Inlet, coming down to 20 knots in the afternoon. Seas 6 feet, higher in the morning, less than 6 feet in the afternoon. And south of the Forelands, northerlies at about 20. With 5-foot seas, back to the northeast here for Kamishak Bay, and then back to the north, and pretty light there for Shelikof Strait, even lighter here off the coast of Kodiak through this marine zone, north at 10 with 7-foot seas, pick it up to 20 knots for the Barren Islands there out of the northeast, turning east here for the western North Gulf Coast, and back to the small craft advisories there for the eastern Gulf Coast for those southeasterlies at 25 with seas running about 9 feet. And outlook for Monday, pretty light winds for Cook Inlet, variable to north-northeast, variable Kamishak Bay across Shelikof Strait, west at 15 there on the east side of Kodiak Island. Still carrying small craft advisories here for the North Gulf Coast, those southeast at winds at 25 knots, seas 7 feet, and easterlies at 20 for Prince William Sound, and the seas again around 4 feet. Bristol Bay, north 15. Small craft advisories continue here for the Alaska Peninsula through tomorrow, 9 to 8 foot seas there. And from Castle Cape up to Sidkanak, northwest at 15 with 7-foot seas. And then for Monday, northwest turn westerly here on the south side of the peninsula, and then southwest up toward Kodiak Island, but only at about 15 knots, and the seas running 5 feet, southwest 15 for Bristol Bay with 3-foot seas. And for the Fox Islands, tomorrow northwest 25, so another day. Actually, the gales continue tonight here south of the eastern Aleutians, or at least through this evening. And then small crafts throughout the day tomorrow there with 9 to 10-foot seas. Southwest, 15 to 20 for the central Aleutians. Again, that low kind of tracking that way. So southwesterly there, turning westerly at 10 to 15 behind that system. And then for Monday, pretty light winds everywhere, north to northwest at 15 for the western Aleutians, Adak and Atka, north at 15, all the way over toward Nikolsky, northwest 15 knots. So a pretty light wind day across the entire chain on Monday with seas running 4 to 6 feet. And for the southwest coast tomorrow, northwesterlies 20 to 25 knots here, especially Nunivak Island. Small craft advisories definitely in the forecast there for St. Lawrence Island. And northwest 20 for the Pribilofs, northwest 15 for St. Matthew Island. And then for Monday, kind of increase the winds a little bit here. Now small craft advisories holding there for St. Lawrence Island, up to 25 knots, north of Nunivak Island, northwest at 20, south of the island there with 5-foot seas, 15 knots in the Pribilofs, northward across St. Matthew Island. And on the eastern Arctic coast, pretty light winds there, north at 5, 2-foot seas, northeast 10 for the eastern Beaufort Sea there, coastline, and then south, really, you could call it just light and variable here for the entire central and eastern coast, north 10 to 15 on the west side, and small craft advisories, Wales all the way up to Cape Thompson, 25-knot winds with 5-foot seas. And for Monday, again, that light variable wind condition continues here on the east side. Central coast, westerly maybe picking up to 15 knots with 3-foot seas. Northwest 15, northwest 20 from Cape Thompson to Cape Beaufort. And from Cape Thompson southward, another small craft advisory day for that marine zone with those 25-knot winds holding and 5-foot seas. And for tonight, again, this large low drifting eastward that continues to circulate moisture, clouds, rain, showers, Kodiak Island, North Gulf Coast, improving as this weakening trough pushes eastward there for the Panhandle. Scattered showers later tonight through the interior there after those evening thunderstorms dissipate, and dry conditions to the northwest. Gusty winds here again, gusts 45 miles an hour, Alaska Peninsula, gradually diminishing here for the eastern Aleutians, but again not ending completely. And that next system out west moves to the central Aleutians tomorrow. And then we've got along this trough axis here, kind of a thermal trough right through here with temperatures again rising into the mid to upper 70s here over the eastern interior in the sunnier areas. And that should trigger some thunderstorm activity. Alaska Range up to the southern slopes of the Brooks Range, southwest here across the valleys down into the Kilburk Mountains. Showers and less wind for the Alaska Peninsula, eastern Aleutians, and as I mentioned, rain there in the central Aleutians, and then that drops off to the south after that. And for Monday, very weak low now, but the general pattern still southwest or south to north there, keeping it wet, but not as wet. Rainfall not as heavy from the North Gulf Coast. Showers for the Panhandle, pretty numerous, cloudy with showers there. And again, same pattern here over the interior, scattered thunderstorms, but drier conditions, south central Alaska, a little more sunshine and less in the way of precipitation. Well, that's a look at the weather for this Saturday afternoon. Thanks for joining us.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
Sometimes the best way to find a living is to stay right where you are and study with UAS online. Career-specific distance programs from the University of Alaska Southeast are the fastest way to increase your earning power.
We connect all over the world.